Hello, everyone. It's been a minute since I've done one of these. Um, been having some took some time away. Um, not really from social media. There were a few days where I didn't. I'm all out of sorts. um, there were a few days where I didn't really. Um, I was I was seeing some friends, and where we were, there was no reception. So um, so there were a couple days where I well, there was internet access, but I did not sign in or anything. This glass is dirty. I cleaned it myself, so it's my own fault. It's my own doing. Also, I haven't been drinking. I had some beers when over the weekend, but I don't drink if I'm not doing one of these. So that was the only time I drank in the last, I don't know, week or so since I've done one of these. As always, links to donate are in the description. You should go pick some, pick one, pick a couple, pick all of them if you are have that ability to donate. I am still in the process of trying to get my shit together and figuring out what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing right now. Anyway, uh yeah, so there were a couple things I've been thinking about. All right. I don't know what happened. I was brushing some stuff off my laptop, and it went away. And then it seemed like I didn't have internet or something. I don't know, but I had a couple things I've been thinking about. Um, oh, Clara, no chewing on plastic. Um, um, the there's one thing that I remember, but there have been a few things that I've been thinking about over the last week or so since my last live stream thing. Um, and uh, um, the one that's freshest in my mind is the one that I was thinking about yesterday, 2 days ago. Um, I was, I think it was when I was either on my way to work or on my way home from work, and I was like, I was on my way home. Or maybe I was thinking about it both the whole time. Probably all day I was thinking about it, actually. That's usually how things go when I think about things. And I'm like, government shutdown. Why are we going to work? Why are our tax dollars going to pay for people's salaries who are now not working? And because I'm pretty sure Congress and everybody still gets paid. Military doesn't get paid. All the government peripherals, park rangers and such stuff like that for um, federally run parks, they don't get paid. I know they don't. I saw something the other day that said they don't. Parks stay open. Federal parks stay open, but they don't collect money from people. So they don't collect money from people, and there's nobody working in the parks. So that's when you have people who don't respect and don't respect the nature, the their fellow humans, the animals, and then and then federal parks get trashed. And I think the one thing I saw in particular was saying like it's I don't know how this shit works. I mean, I think they keep us on spread thin so that you don't um so that you're not keep you spread thin and uneducated, which I can attest to because I am fucking at the end of my rope mentally. Just have not been doing well. Um, and Clara. Um, so I'm not exactly sure if they're just keeping parks open now, or if parks are just open to the public if even if the government shut down. But apparently, the point of that is to get people to basically because people are losers and humans are trash, and generally speaking, and the point of keeping the parks open is and without anybody working there is inevitably to uh, run down these parks and then once they're run down enough be like, see, the parks are like they're not generating any money and we got to put all this money into it to make them better. And basically the end goal is to sell off all these federal parks, national parks, whatever you want to call them, to developers or whatever to build resorts in some and other dumb shit that most of us won't be able to afford to uh, visit or appreciate or whatever. So So yeah. I just remembered one of the other things that I wanted to talk about. Why is everything being really weird? Um, let's see. Okay, so it seems like the internet is working. The other thing I was going to talk about is ceasefire in Palestine, and since the ceasefire happened a few days ago. Ceasefire. Since then, the last thing I saw, um, I saw one thing earlier today, I think, that said Israel has killed 24 people since the ceasefire. But I could have sworn that the other day I saw something that was more around 50 people. I could be wrong, but then also after the ceasefire, apparently there's fucking Israel-backed gangs going around killing people. A journalist was killed. Salah, I forget his name because I'm bad with remembering things. Yeah, the internet's being weird right now. So I hope this is coming across okay. Or maybe it's just Instagram. Let's see. Yeah, it just seems to be Instagram, I guess. Yeah. Instagram's being weird right now. I was trying to look up. One thing I've been seeing a lot of though, recently is how well, I'll just read this. Ocean acidification, seventh planetary boundary now breached, scientists warn. This means that several of Earth's life supporting systems risk crossing critical thresholds with severe consequences for both ecosystems and societies. Yeah. So, 7 of 9 planetary boundaries now breached. Yeah. So, we're not things are not good. And we're still acting like going to work is important. Well, if we don't do something soon, you're just going to be going to work for basically. Hi, Clara. You want to come up here? Come on. Come here. Come in. Hi. Come on. What are you doing? She's just sitting down here staring at me. Come on. Sources in the Israeli army. Hamas seized at least 45 trucks and hundreds of Kalashnikov rifles, machine guns, ammunition, and grenades that Israel supplied to some collaborating clans in Gaza, in addition to cash funds that were transferred to them. So it's very hopeful watching a really like what's the word? Just a trying to think of a way to not make it sound demeaning. Just or I guess I could just say a grassroots resistance. It's hopeful and encouraging to see this resistance that does not have the resources that the United States and Israel well, Israel does get some things from other countries, but the United States supplies most of it. So, but it's really nice to see that this resistance is just beating these if you want to call them nuclear powers, just beating them on every front. And I don't mean that in like obviously Israel is still genociding people, or I should say genociding Palestinians. They're still attacking Lebanon. I feel like it's been quiet from Yemen and Iraq. Or Iran, sorry. Iran recently. But I don't think that's a good thing. Good. I don't think that's a good thing for Israel. I'm saying. ICE tickets Chicago man with legal residency $130 for not having his papers on him. It's not fair. I'm a resident. Today I learned that ICE has this power. Welcome to the show me your papers phase of American fascism. Yeah. Ruben Antonio Cruz was sitting with a friend in Rogers Park when ICE agents pulled up onto the street. The immigration officers stopped their truck and went straight after them. Thursday, Cruz told the Tribune. They asked us if we have papers. I said I do, but I don't have them on me. Cruz, a 60-year-old man with heart problems originally from El Salvador, recalled in Spanish. The agents stood Cruz up, put him in their truck, drove around in circles, and asked questions, he said. Former MI5 agent reveals Princess Diana was murdered because she was about to publicly support the cause of the Palestinians. Also, if you use AI, stop using AI. Israel's breaking the ceasefire and have blocked aid into Gaza. That was 2 days ago. Zoom call with Office of Republican Congressman reveals swastika flag displayed on wall. The rot is so much deeper than the normies realize. Breaking. Gaza Civil Defense. We found booby-trapped children's toys and canned food that the occupation deliberately planted to cause more casualties. I don't think people truly understand the level of evil we're dealing with. Yeah. A young man in Britain was arrested for attending a Zoom meeting with the Palestine Action Movement. A man in the UK faces handcuffs for a meeting. The UK government faces no consequences for arming a genocide. This is the quote-unquote free world. Free to kill, not free to care. Journalist. You've said that Russia should repay for the reconstruction of Ukraine. Do you believe Israel should repay for the reconstruction of Gaza? I saw the clip of this the other day. EU chief spokesperson. I have no comment at this stage. Western hypocrisy and double standards, plain as day. Yeah. Hamas won't give up arms or Gaza control despite agreeing to Trump deals. That's from the New York Post. This is an outright lie. They never agreed to give up arms. What we're watching, folks, is the Zionist media in real time manufacturing consent for Israel to break the ceasefire and go back to assaulting Gaza. Yeah. Yeah. Today marks the first anniversary of Yahya Sinwar's death, against whom so many lies were manufactured to justify the Holocaust in Gaza until he fell in battle in Rafah after a forensic examination showed he was on an empty stomach for 3 consecutive days. Israel has admitted 28 Apache helicopters discharged their ammunition and had to be reloaded on October 7th. Leaked footage proves the IDF took out its own citizens with Apache helicopters at the Nova Music Festival. The IDF did most of the killing. This is 29-year-old Basan Fayyad. Probably mispronouncing that. Israel handed over her body in January 2024, telling her family she was killed. 19 months later, she was confirmed seen behind Israeli bars with hemiparesis. Basan is still a hostage by Israel, which has a long history of enforced disappearance. If you live to be 1,000 years old, Israeli depravity could shock you every day of your life with a new evil twist. And in the end, you will have not seen everything. Israel stole the internal organs of Palestinians, handed them over to the Red Cross, and stuffed the bodies into cotton suits. Yeah. A lot of Israel returned a bunch of bodies, and basically they were all, well, maybe not all of them, but bodies were handcuffed. They showed evidence of torture, execution. Organs were removed. Some of the bodies were stuffed with cotton. It's just entirely fucked up. And I think I'm not exactly sure what has been affecting my mental health so much. Could be because I'm struggling financially for the first time. Well, I've never been financially stable, but right now it's just been a little whatever. But I've just been dealing with some stuff. So I don't know if it's that or the fact that I have to keep pretending like everything's okay. Or just the amount of death and destruction I have witnessed over the last 2 years. Abolitionist John Brown's raid on Harper's Ferry began on this day in 1859, taking over a federal arsenal to launch a slave revolt. He was a freedom fighter who would have been reviled as a terrorist today. Before being executed for his quote unquote crime, he said this: I am quite certain that the crimes of this guilty land will never be purged away but with blood. I had, as I now think vainly, flattered myself that without very much bloodshed it might be done. According to preliminary information, the Israeli army is targeting a quarry, an asphalt plant, a concrete plant, and a diesel tank in southern Lebanon. The message is clear. The message is, quote, non Jews are not allowed to have the basic conditions for life unless our feelings permit it. Hamas's wide ranging security campaign to eliminate armed gangs that collaborated with the Israeli army during the war is escalating. Our operations will root them all out without exception, a Hamas security source tells Mondo. You can be mad at Hamas for executing these collaborators, as is customary across history, or you can oppose ISIS, but not both. Extrajudicial killing of genocide collaborators is good and historically normal, actually. Oh. Yeah. After that journalist was executed, Hamas arrested uh, a bunch of the collaborators and apparently executed them the other day, which good. Um, um,
Good morning. I know some of you expressed concerns about my age. You're worried about a 33-year-old becoming mayor of New York City. And I want you to know I hear you. That's why this weekend I'll be making a change. I'm turning the red point. And I'm committing that for every single day from here on out, I will roll. It's not me.
Instagram is being weird still, but whatever. So yeah, between genocides and climate change and all the shit going on domestically, like we should probably. I've been trying. Fucking, I'd probably be better at this if my mental health was better. But I also need to find a way to not find a way, but like I need to get a system in place to keep myself accountable for things because I know I haven't been doing enough. I haven't been doing enough at all, and I keep thinking about it, and it upsets me quite a bit. So yeah. Australian tropical rainforest trees switch in world first from carbon sink to emission source. Researchers say carbon emissions change in Queensland. I think that's just Queensland. Tropical rainforests may have global climate implications. Well, if they're there's a whole thing, right? For the first time, scientists have observed tropical rainforest trees turning from a carbon sink into a carbon source. Nearly 50 years of data from Queensland's tropical forests show that since the late 1900s, tree trunks and branches have been releasing more carbon than they absorb due to rising heat and drought stress. The shift, documented in Nature, signals a potential tipping point for global carbon cycles with major implications for climate models and emission targets. Researchers warn that if similar trends appear in other tropical forests, the planet's ability to buffer CO2 could rapidly decline, making emissions cuts even more urgent. Fuck. $8 million Venezuelans enlist in nation's citizen reserve, pledging to defend against U.S. regime change.
I know I make people feel uncomfortable. That is my entire brand. Right? I am Andrew Cuomo. Okay. I am the real Andrew Cuomo. And if you are a billionaire, I will support your right. I will support you. If you are an oil exec, I will support you.
Clear. A reminder for the upcoming No Kings protest. If you're only pushing back against Trump and not the system itself, ask what it is you're protesting. This is why decolonization matters. Putting a brown face on imperialism is still imperialism. They say no kings, but they'd make Kamala a queen. Kamala? I forget how to say her name properly. More devastating climate stuff. Hi, Clara. You want to come up? Come here. I don't. Hey, no. Won't have any of that, Clara. There was a famous serial killer who would sentence his victims for crimes they never committed. After murdering them, he would keep their bodies as prisoners until the sentences he gave them were complete, even if that meant keeping the bodies for 20 plus years. That serial killer's name is Israel. Why are you no longer horrified about learning the truth about the psychopath's identity? Um, the Al Qassam brigades have, for the first time ever, deployed and used a Chinese Hongyan, I don't know how to pronounce it, 8-wire guided anti-tank missile system against Israeli armor to great effect. Certainly a first of its kind. This is a weapon system not even Iran is using. This is from October 1st. Hamas fights with a patchwork of weapons built by Iran, China, Russia, and North Korea. The 2007 Israeli blockade was supposed to keep weapons out of the Gaza Strip, but the appearance of small drones, Chinese-made rocket launcher, something, Chinese weapons found in Gaza. U.S. says Chinese firm is helping Houthis target American warships. Satellite company linked to People's Liberation Army has supplied images to Iran-backed group in Yemen, says officials. Good. Noich. Based China for supplying Palestinian resistance with arms, weapons, and intelligence. They supplied Hamas and the Palestinian National Liberation Front with arms and weapons, and also the Houthis are using Chinese technology in their just struggle against Zionism as well. Super based. Anyone buying into the war propaganda about Venezuela is a fucking moron. The lies are dumb, even by usual U.S. warmongering standards. And U.S. regime change interventionism is consistently disastrous. People who say they want Trump to remove Maduro are admitting they never grew up. Don't get distracted by the fact that all 45 of the dead bodies being returned to Hamas and Israel were killed by Israel, and only the Palestinian bodies were tortured, mutilated, and unidentifiable. When you realize you're talking to a socialism is the path to communism socialist, not a Bernie AOC reform by vote socialist. Taylor Swift is a white supremacist, if anybody needs me to say that. The Qassam Shadow Unit, its very name sends tremors through the corridors of Zionist intelligence, symbolizing the highest form of clandestine warfare and security professionalism in the modern era. To outsiders, it's a ghostly entity. No faces, no leaks, no statements, just flawless execution and results that leave adversaries bewildered and in awe. Yeah. The Shadow Unit is not simply a collection of elite fighters, it is a disciplined, intelligence-driven institution that operates in absolute silence, away from the clamor of media and the chaos of the battlefield. Every operation is guided by rigorous strategy, meticulous planning, and an obsessive commitment to secrecy. The men of this unit do not seek fame. Their names do not circulate on social media or news broadcasts. Their existence is measured solely in the tangible impact they deliver and the secrets they keep, often against impossible odds. From its founding, the Shadow Unit has become the black box of resistance. It holds and protects the most sensitive files, chief among them the Israeli POW, managing their captivity, movement, and security under the nose of the most advanced intelligence apparatus in the world. Mossad, Amman, Unit 8200, and every arm of the occupation's intelligence have thrown their entire arsenal at hunting this unit, but all they find are dead ends and vanished traces. I'm glad this popped up because this is kind of what I was talking about before. The Shadow unit has turned Gaza's 360 square kilometer pressure cooker into a secure fortress, moving and hiding the most valuable captives for years without a single credible breach. In a territory under constant surveillance, drones, satellites, signal intercepts, traders, this is nothing short of legendary. The ethos of the Shadow unit is defined by discipline and zero tolerance for error. There are no leaks, no internal drama, and no chance for human failure. Every operative understands the stakes. The smallest mistake could cost not just a mission, but the entire resistance. That's why the Shadow Unit's organizational structure is compartmentalized, its command chain ruthlessly tight, and its internal vetting and counterintelligence unrivaled by any comparable group in the world. Inside Gaza, the Shadow Unit's mystique is woven into the psychological fabric of the conflict. It is the shadow arm that plans in darkness and executes in silence, and its very reputation serves as a deterrent. To the occupation, the word shadow means an opponent who is always 3 steps ahead, erasing tracks, misdirecting surveillance, turning the enemy's technology against itself, and closing every information gap before it can even be noticed. There are no monuments for the Shadow Unit, no commemorative ceremonies, no public statements. Its victories are inscribed in the failure of enemy operations, the frustration of Israeli intelligence chiefs, and the enduring inability of the occupation to recover a single prisoner without negotiation. The unit's doctrine is simple: secrecy is survival, and survival is victory. In every war, there are legends. In Gaza, the Shadow Unit stands alone as the apex of clandestine resistance, where minds outpace armies, and where the dawn of victory is always drawn by those who work in the deepest night. Their silence is not absence, but the quiet hum of genius at war. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of what I was talking about when I said when I was talking about before about the resistance being just in case you didn't know, because of content suppression, Chicago gangs have declared war on ICE. I did see that. And the cartel has placed $10,000 bounties on the heads of ICE agents. Yeah, Chicago's fucked up. They're kidnapping black people, and I hear they're kidnapping black people in Chicago. And also, Texas sent their National Guard, or whatever the Texas thing is. So we're in civil war right now, by the way, if anyone was wondering. I mean, I haven't seen too much about Chicago in the last couple days, or in the last week or so. So I don't know. Maybe something has changed, but my hair's getting long. It's in like that weird stage where sometimes it just like kind of does whatever it wants. I don't know which way that's supposed to go. Like that. Looks like it's supposed to go that way, right? Whatever. There are 195 countries in the world 186 do not regard Hamas as a terrorist organization, but as resistance to Israeli occupation. Only 9 isolated countries call Hamas terrorists: US, UK, Canada, Australia, Israel, Japan, New Zealand, Switzerland, and Paraguay. Paraguay? Guay? I don't know. I feel like Switzerland and Paraguay are Paraguay. Slender-billed curlew officially declared extinct. A wake-up call for migratory bird conservation. A lot of the men in Al-Qassam brigades uniforms today in Gaza are young. Much of them likely not enlisted prior to October 7th. I wonder how many men joined the resistance in the last 2 years. Israel says it destroyed Hamas, but has likely increased its numbers these past 2 years. Indigenous people in Ecuador continue national strike, resisting heavy repression. For over 24 days, in the face of violent repression, the people of Ecuador have been protesting against the right-wing multimillionaire president Daniel Noboa. The strike was initially called to protest against the end of the diesel subsidy, but the discontent is on the rise in the country due to high crime, unemployment, and inflation rates in the country. The government of Noboa staged a humanitarian caravan to allegedly bring aid to the families damaged by the strike, but residents of the Imbabura province have denounced of only receiving repression and attacks by security forces. This is the first time I'm hearing about Ecuador. Can you turn that down a little bit? I have to say it's Katie because she's. Long COVID is real and it's changing an entire generation. Hundreds of thousands of kids in America are struggling with an illness that many doctors and schools refuse to recognize. read this. Whichever figure you use, the numbers are enormous, rivaling conditions like ADHD and autism as one of the most common chronic diseases in American youth today. And for the children and teens I've spoken with, long COVID has done serious physical and emotional damage. It's also hindered their ability to participate in school, something that becomes an all-encompassing, Jesus Christ, I can't talk today. All-encompassing, whatever. That doesn't sound right, but whatever. Source of frustration for children and parents alike. What the wide-ranging long COVID symptoms have in common is that they're a challenging combination of persistent yet intermittent, incapacitating yet invisible. Too often, especially for young people, that means adults, even doctors, don't believe there's anything wrong with the child, says Alexandra Yonts, a pediatric infectious disease specialist who is also the director of the post-COVID program at Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C. They think they're being a teenager. Leah and Joy Corbett at their dining room table in Davidson, North Carolina, quote, "When you have a disability people can't see," Joy says, "you don't get as much empathy." Over the next 3 years, Leah would develop a perplexing, debilitating, and persistent set of symptoms: extreme fatigue that turned mornings into catatonic nightmares, brain fog that made memories slippery, incessant vomiting. It all kept her out of class, stuck in the nurse's office, or out of school entirely. The straight A's evaporated. Leah's story is one I've heard from dozens of families over 2 years investigating the impact of long COVID on kids. It's a slow-moving spiral. First their health, then their grades, then their future. And as the country throttles past the pandemic's 5th anniversary, those for whom COVID looms very present are feeling increasingly forgotten, subject to pervasive skepticism and a kind of cultural fatigue that when it comes to their illness. Dakota Presnell, on a dock in Manteo, North Carolina, he used to spend the summers roller skating and playing in the ocean, his mom says, before his long COVID symptoms hit. Dakota had gone back to school in person, and like many who contracted COVID's most infectious variant, he was quickly bedridden, Michelle says. Of all his symptoms, the dizziness and fatigue were the worst. At one point, a friend told Michelle that she should look into long COVID. She'd bring it up time and time again with Dakota's pediatrician to little avail. In the summer of 2022, the blackout started. Out of nowhere, like a limp marionette, Dakota would drop to the ground. Michelle became his legs. Oh, it's not the whole thing. This was from an article in Rolling Stone. Kidnapped from a tank will always be my favorite propaganda line. Insanely hilarious and ballsy to come up with that. Honestly, though, if you were in a tank and someone managed to get your ass out of it by the scruff of your neck, just say fair play and eat the L. Yeah. Before Alaska flooding, EPA canceled $20 million flood protection grant. The remote village of Kipnuk planned to use the money to protect against flooding. On Sunday, it was inundated. The EPA canceled a $20 million flood protection grant for Alaska's native village of Kipnuk in May, calling it wasteful DEI spending. On Sunday, Kipnuk was devastated by floods that destroyed homes and left residents stranded. watched an insane documentary last night from 2015 that follows an FBI informant trying to entrap a Muslim dude to become a terrorist. Then the target realizes he's being entrapped, and the documentary crew starts interviewing him at the same time, showing both sides of this op. It's called Terror. Spoiler alert, the Muslim target is about to go public with his entrapment, but then gets arrested on the most bullshit charge you can imagine and has to take a plea deal for 8 years in prison, and his family gets deported. Whole thing is on YouTube in 3 parts. What's most fascinating about the documentary is the FBI informant who was a Muslim and former Black Panther, but had been an informant for years and sent several people to prison, including his own friends, and watching him rationalize his opery in his own head. After the FBI informant's cover is blown and the Muslim dude realizes he's being entrapped, the informant calls his handlers, suggests going hardcore. Quote, suggest going, quote, hardcore, get him for the hell of it with a, quote, black ball trick, like planting guns or drugs. Then that's basically what the FBI does. The FBI and informants are so sloppy and stupid with their sting to try to convince the POI, person of interest, to sign up for Al-Qaeda. But it's still crazy to watch the dude so easily and thoroughly expose the op. Stay noited. By the way, I'd bet my freedom from Guantanamo that the FBI is doing this shit in those Discord channels that all these mass shooters and political assassins keep coming out of. It's hilarious watching the informant get pissed off at his FBI handlers for making the op so goddamn obvious. They literally do a, hello, fellow Muslim, have you seen this TV show about Muslim terrorists? The resistance frees a Jewish prisoner from Israeli jails. The occupation had insisted on refusing his release in previous deals. Raed Sadaka gained his freedom after spending 21 years in captivity. He is a Jew from one of the smallest Jewish sects, the Samaritan community. Born in Nablus, he specialized in history and archaeology at An-Naha University. I'm saying everything wrong today. He joined the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine and was active in its military wing. He was arrested during the Al-Aqsa Intifada in 2000 and sentenced to 6 life terms. Jesus Christ. Al-Qassam fighters returning from the front lines confirmed they lured a Zionist ground team, 12 soldiers plus 5 agents, into a prepared kill box at a booby-trapped tunnel. As the force reached the designated point, the explosives were triggered, resulting in confirmed casualties, dead and wounded, among the attackers. Surveillance elements recorded the rapid arrival of evacuation helicopters in Al-Nada, East Rafah, as Israeli command scrambled to extract the remains and casualties. The operation was executed on July 27, 2025. Methane leaks multiplying beneath Antarctic Ocean spark Methane leaks multiplying beneath Antarctic. There's no punctuation. So methane leaks multiplying beneath Antarctic Ocean spark fears of climate doom loop. There you go. Scientists working in the Ross Sea have discovered an increasing number of methane seeps rising from the seafloor beneath Antarctica. These vents release methane gas that has been trapped for thousands of years in frozen sediments below the ice. As ocean temperatures continue to rise, these frozen layers are weakening, allowing the gas to escape into the water and potentially into the atmosphere. Methane is a highly potent greenhouse gas that traps far more heat than carbon dioxide over short timescales. Researchers fear that growing emissions from Antarctic seeps could accelerate global warming, triggering a feedback cycle in which warming leads to more methane release, which then causes further warming. Microbial communities can consume some methane before it reaches the atmosphere, but scientists have found that new seeps are forming faster than these microbes can adapt. As a result, large amounts of methane may be entering the ocean unchecked. You know. Forensic evidence shows bodies of Israeli captives killed by Israeli bombs, not Hamas. Yeah. Yeah, and some of the things that some of the stories of the Palestinian hostages, and also some of the stories from the people on the flotillas that were imprisoned. Not good stuff. Things we should all be like doing something about, since our tax dollars go to pay for that stuff. Hi, Claire. Did you eat your food? Your food was over there. Did you get it? US B-52 bombers have invaded Venezuelan airspace. Yeah. Israel has blocked a team of Turkish search and rescue technicians from entering Gaza, all as aid continues to be heavily restricted in flagrant violation of the ceasefire. That was 2 hours ago. As someone with Armenian heritage, I have mixed feelings about them being Turkish, but you know. I also understand Turkish governments are not the people. So I mostly say it as a joke. Kids who get COVID twice have greater rates of abdominal pain, skin conditions, headache, kidney damage, musculoskeletal pain, weakened heart, loss of taste, smell, blood clots, fatigue, chest pain, cognitive. I forgot the end. Impairment. Or is cognitive a word? I don't think so. Yeah. I also don't know if some of the shit I've been dealing with is fucking long COVID or some shit. I don't think it is because I know long COVID stuff can be intermittent and inconsistent and stuff, but but I don't know. Or it could be, maybe. The Jewish state quoting Hitler as if the wise words of a sage. Former Israeli MP Moshe Feiglin on Israel's most watched news show, as Hitler said, "I cannot live if one Jew is left. We can't live here if one Palestinian remains in Gaza. When people tell you who they are, believe them. Zionism is the new Nazism." Yeah. What is this? As Hitler, may his name be erased, once said, "I cannot live in this world if there was..." Oh, this is the actual quote. As Hitler, may his name be erased, once said, "I cannot live in this world if there was one Jew left in it. We could not live in this land if even one such Islamo-Nazi remains in Gaza." Palestinian. And not before we return to Gaza and turn it into Hebrew Gaza. Moshe Feiglin, former Likud member of Knesset, Likud, I don't know, and deranged messianic. I know how to say that word. Am I saying that word right? I don't know. Lunatic quotes Hitler to describe what needs to be done in Gaza. This guy, by the way, spearheaded years ago the attempt of the extreme religious right wing to take over the Likud party, whatever that is, and gain control over Israel's ruling party. He definitely succeeded in that, even though he himself quit the party in 2014. So there's a article. I can breathe again. Israel's Zykum beach open for first time since 7th October attack. Some bathers returned to sands immediately north of Gaza with feelings of relief and loss after killings here 2 years ago. And then someone shared it and said, Hamza Yusuf says, "I know there was a genocide in Gaza that reduced the entire territory to rubble and shattered countless lives alongside an engineered famine, but will someone please think of the beachgoers in Israel who have suffered gravely?" Is Zoran Mamdani a Zionist? Don't twist the definition of Zionism to let liberal Zionists off the hook. Israel existing in any form is Zionism, and defending that means justifying the Nakba and the ongoing genocide. That's a basic principle, not purist politics. The only thought on my mind right now is they allowed for my rights to be taken away because they couldn't say no to a genocide. We keep blaming the voters for choices, but never the politicians for giving us only terroristic options. The EU, this goes back to the, well, I'll read it again. Journalists, you've said that Russia should repay for the reconstruction of Ukraine. Do you believe Israel should repay for the reconstruction of Gaza? EU chief spokesperson, I have no comment at this stage. Western hypocrisy and double standards plain as day. The EU spokesperson has no comment because the EU is a partner in Israel's genocide. An unfathomable hypocrisy on full display for the whole world to see. We always talk about Basan, and I don't know how to pronounce her last name. Ouda? Basan from Gaza. And for good reason. She is a Palestinian journalist who deserves the world's attention. Basan doesn't follow any political script or Western narrative. She speaks only the truth she sees, the reality she witnesses with her own eyes in Gaza. She refuses to repeat what others want to hear. She tells what she lives, what she feels, and what her people endure. This is Basan, a brave, powerful woman still standing in Gaza, still reporting, still fighting with her voice. She refused to leave even when the war continued. While many fled, she stayed strong, fearless, and honest. I admit I feel ashamed that I'm not there, that I'm here in Finland while she remains in Gaza fighting for truth and dignity. But I left only to help my family, to support them, and to keep their voices alive. So thank you, Basan. And thank you to all the journalists who stood firm. And thank you to the people of Gaza. Your courage gives the world its conscience. New. Devastating memoir reveals Epstein victim survived a choking, beating, and bloodying from a former prime minister whom she refused to name because I fear that this man will seek to hurt me if I say his name here. Based on recent news and newly released documents, 2 prime ministers had connections with Jeffrey Epstein. Former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. Recent documents from the National Archives reveal that Blair met with Epstein in Downing Street in 2002. This meeting was arranged at the urging of Peter Mandelson, a close associate of Blair, well before Epstein's crimes became public knowledge. Former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak. Records show that Barak had a personal and financial relationship with Epstein that included visits to his private island. Emails released in August 2025 indicated that Barak was informed of allegations against Epstein years before he publicly acknowledged them. Let's see. Post by NATO. NATO is a defensive alliance. We will remain a defensive alliance, but make no mistake, this defensive alliance is ready and willing to do what it takes to keep our 1 billion people safe and our territory secure. And then Thomas Fazzi. I don't know. It's Fazi. So, however you pronounce that. NATO is by far the most violent, aggressive military organization on the planet. It has waged countless wars of aggression, not a single one of them defensive in nature, which have caused millions of deaths. Meanwhile, it has engaged in several terrorist acts on European territory, e.g. Operation Gladio, the latest one being the bombing of the Nord Stream pipeline. NATO is the biggest threat to peace in the world. Humanity's survival depends on dismantling it. Yeah. Verizon exec tells unemployed Gen Z they can always volunteer to stand out in the current bleak job market. No one's going to say no to free work. Jesus Christ, I gotta get off fucking Verizon. Verizon socked away, that's $18,193,000,000 in pure profits this year. A 60% increase. YOI. Whatever. I know it's like fuck. They paid out $11.2 billion in dividends to shareholders. Their CEO makes $24 million. They've halved their workforce over the last decade. Now they're telling people to work for free. LOL, get fucked. Oh, here's a thing from Greta Thunberg. Greta Thunberg. Israeli soldiers hit, kicked, starved, and tortured me. They placed the flag next to me, and any time the flag touched me, they kicked me. Whenever I raised my head to look at Ben-Gvir, I was kicked. She was filmed while stripped naked. Prison was 40 degrees, but no water was given to Greta and her friends for days. I'm assuming 40 degrees Celsius. People fell sick. Guards mocked them, saying they would gas them, showing them cylinders. She was kept in solitary confinement for hours with bugs. They're doing this to a world-famous white activist only because she dares to support Palestinians. Now imagine what they do to Palestinians. It's far worse than we know. Yeah. We have to stop comparing the Israelis to Nazis. It's not being honest. Nazis didn't target paramedics, aid workers, journalists, or snipe children on purpose. Zionists are worse than Nazis in every way. Nazis were not pedos either. Israel becoming safe haven for pedophiles with laws that allow any Jews to legally return. Across the U.S., communities are removing pavement with their own hands. Residents use shovels and pry bars to break up asphalt in yards, parking lots, and sidewalks. The work is hard, but the result is immediate. The soil reappears and the water starts to infiltrate again. These actions are concentrated in poor and racialized neighborhoods. These are the hottest areas of cities with fewer trees and more concrete. In some, the temperature difference reaches 7 degrees Celsius compared to wealthy neighborhoods. The heat map repeats the inequality map. The Portland organization DPAVE coordinates part of this movement. Since 2007, it has removed 8.7 acres of asphalt and redirected 24 million gallons of sewer water each year. The collective efforts involve schools, churches, and local groups without major construction work or machinery. After removal, the soil breathes again. The surrounding temperature drops, drainage improves, and the space becomes more usable. Abandoned areas become squares, vegetable gardens, and schoolyards. The impact is environmental, but also social. People begin to occupy what was previously empty. The excess asphalt is no coincidence. It marks where public investment never reached. Removing pavement is a direct way to correct this urban pattern. DPAVE shows the climate adaptation and social justice can start this way. With neighbors, simple tools, and bare ground again. New 9 hours ago. An Israeli prisoner whose body was returned yesterday was killed by Israeli airstrikes forensic tests confirm. Staff Sergeant Tamer Nimrodi was abducted from his base alive and killed by IDF bombs while in captivity. The Israeli Hostage Families Forum said in a statement in Hebrew. Palestinian hostage from Gaza. Every time his hands start to heal, the occupation break them again. His hands have been broken more than 5 times. Right. Just how many of Jeffrey Epstein's lawyers are entirely innocent? Just how many? That's a response to this article in the New York Post. Just how many of Gaza's civilians are entirely innocent? And it's written or co-written by Alan Dershowitz. More coral reef things. This is an extremely disturbing study. According to new research reported here, the probability of the Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, the AMOC, collapsing due to climate change is much higher than previously believed. One author said, "We found that on our current policy trajectory, the tipping point where the shutdown becomes inevitable is probably in the next 10 to 20 years or so. AMOC collapse would then follow by 50, 100 years. The AMOC is what brings warm water from the equator up to the west coast of Europe, keeping that region warm and wet. Circulates cold water from the Arctic down south. The AMOC, say that. AMOC collapse would cause dramatic cooling in Europe, particularly in Britain and Ireland, France, and the Nordic countries, with average temperatures dropping by up to 8 degrees Celsius. Icy. Studies have found this would have a dramatic negative impact on agriculture in Britain. In the USA, it would cause higher sea level rise on the East Coast. The research on this is striking because so far the negative impacts of climate breakdown have affected the global South more than the global North. This may be one reason that northern governments have been slow to respond, but AMOC collapse changes this calculus. We can still avoid this risk, but it requires rapid emissions reductions much faster than governments are presently planning to achieve. It will require strong public finance mechanisms and public works to overcome the inertia of capital and will require degrowing unnecessary forms of production. Maine Governor Janet Mills condemns Portland's vote to divest from Israel. Goose.
Hi, Clara.
I'm gonna end this soon. The U.S. FWS has declared open season war on barred owls, native species on the west coast of the USA. Barred owls are patient, deeply supportive, and capable of empathy. I've seen it firsthand when their young keep tumbling to the ground in those first fragile weeks out of the nest. The mother will fly tree to tree, watching them with tireless vigilance, never letting them out of her sight. They are also incredibly affectionate and loyal. Barred owls are not shy about showing love. I have watched pairs preen each other and kiss in the canopy for 20 minutes at a time, and I see this not just with one pair, but across multiple families every year. Their bond is lifelong, and their devotion to one another is something we can all learn from. They, US FWS, will spend $1.35 billion in your tax dollars over the next 30 years to delete 500,000 barred owls. This species has been protected under federal law for over a century, making the scope and legality of this action both unprecedented and deeply concerning. If you would like to save them, visit my profiles, see my website, and there's phone numbers and emails for you to call and email Congress when you do. Don't forget to say the following. Please co-sponsor HJ Resolution 111 and SJ Resolution 69 to save barred owls. And this was, if you're curious, this was posted by the Owl Queen. The Owl Queen. TheOwlQueen. All right. That's enough for me this evening. Hi, Clara. I'm going to try to do one or two this weekend. We'll see. Trying to get my shit together. All right. Well, as always, if you watched this far, this one was kind of last minute. I usually like to give somewhat of a heads up, but whatever. Links in the description. Please donate if you can. And Free Palestine. And now the awkward minute to get off here. Peace.